Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Malifaux. This is Mollusk, and this is a game where bad things happen. To whom, you'll have to wait and see. Collodi continues his grudge match against Perdita, and it looks like they're doing it at a summer camp. So the terrain, these are forests, the buildings are impassable buildings, the pools of water are severe terrain, the boxes and rail carts, whatever they are hardcover, and the benches and diving board and shit are softcover. I lost the flip, and so deployed first. I've got a Marionette, Lazarus with Retribution's Eye, Mr Tannen with Mimic's Blessing, Hodgepodge Effigy, a Wildgeist, Marionette, Collodi behind them here with Strum the Threads, Bag of Props, and Breathed Life, and the Brutal Effigy taking the back. So I like the strategy. Guard the Stash is quite good with Collodi, as I've got lots of models to spread out, and I can keep summoning stuff. Neutralise the leader isn't great. Collodi doesn't excel at damaging other masters. My opponent could be bringing Sonia or Hoffman, but I reckon he's bringing Perdita, and so basically that's just not going to happen. Take Prisoner would be good. You can now put it on any model, but I'd probably put it on either his master or his main henchman, which is almost certainly going to be Francisco, and then dogpile them with hard-to-kill puppets. That way they spend their valuable AP trying to hack their way out, and I reckon I could just keep summoning them back. But that scheme is pretty much the same as it always has been, and I want to try out the Gaining Grounds new schemes. So that leaves me with Show of Force and Leave Your Mark. Oh, and Convict Labour. So Show of Force worked out well for me before, and I want to give it another try. And between Convict and Mark, I've seen Convict done before, and I want to give Mark a go and just see if it's as hard as I think it is. So the plan is Collodi, his effigies, and a couple of marionettes are going to take the centre with, probably focusing around one of these stash markers, and basically just try to soak my opponent's considerable firepower with hard to kill and resummoning. I'm going to have another couple of marionettes swinging out wide round the flanks. As looking at my opponent's crew, I'm pretty sure he's going to be clustering in the centre to get this strategy. There's a fairly good chance he's going for Show of Force, and it's not unlikely he's going for the one where he has to kill my master. All of which should conspire to leave the flanks open where I can drop some scheme markers, although that Austringer is as always going to be a pain. So my thinking at this point is to have Mr Tannen hanging around with the puppet bubble, making it difficult for my opponent to cheat, and then have Lazarus hanging back somewhere in cover but reasonably central, maybe here or here, doing all his lovely blasting. The Wildgeist is going to sit in all this severe cover, bogging things down with its 4-inch engagement range, and dropping forests to give Lazarus more cover. And this plan has a glaring weakness, which I'm sure you'll see. Lazarus is too slow to get where he needs to be without assistance. He is clearly Perdita's numero uno target, and short of running him into a board corner, there's nothing I can do to stop her from taking him down in one turn. But we'll just see how things go. Senor Hiddlefon has brought Perdita Ortega with Aura Ancestral and Trick Shooting. And are you freaking kidding me? Aura Ancestral is a 1 Soulstone upgrade. Wow, that's good. A Guild Austringer, Francisco Ortega, with Wade In. An Enslaved Nephilim Boo Hiss, Witchling Stalker, Abuela Ortega, with Hair Trigger. And a Peacekeeper, with Expert Sleuth. Yep, I reckon he has me for Show of Force. So into turn 1 we go, starting out with a strong hand. I lose the initiative and go first, and basically I spend my first activations moving my marionettes out. They go fast around the flanks. I figure it will be harder for him to hit them there, and maybe it will force him to spread out. The guild is pushing for the centre. The Peacekeeper comes out to here, which means that that's Lazarus' prime target, so I've got to get him back over here. So the marionettes are starting to drag him along into position. The Enslaved pushes the Witchling out over here. I've got a Marionette coming up. Basically it's there to just draw fire and be a convenient scrap marker for the next turn. I think the Austringer has shot it. I've got both my effigies activating, giving Collodi their 0 action, walking and then focusing, because my plan is to cripple the Peacekeeper in the first turn, and I figure once he's down then that's the major threat on this side of the board. Oh, it looks like I was wrong. It looks like that's Abuela moving up there. So at this point, Francisco is gone, he's moved around here, and then Perdita has relocated towards him. She removes my marionette, walks up over here and tries to take out this one, but to everyone's surprise, she misses. So this is when the Enslaved made the Witchling go up and then the Witchling shots my guy, taking him to his last wound and putting 2 burning on him. Drat. And this kind of thing is something I really struggle with Perdita's crew. Not only is everything so lethal, but with all the pushes Abuela, the Ostringer, and especially the Nephilim give out, models can be hitting you in your deployment zone turn 1, and that includes Perdita. She can go 8 inches with a relocate towards Francisco, 5 more inches with a walk action, and get 2 14-inch shots, which can pretty reliably remove or at least cripple virtually any model she wants. And that's a lot of pressure to deal with. Near the end of the turn, things look like this. Collodi goes fast, he walks up, looks like that's a double walk, personal puppets this marionette, and then takes 2 shots at the Peacekeeper. The first one gets my bidding, and I try to hit the Witchling, and Mr Tannen cheats to prevent me, and the next shot slows it. My last move is Lazarus, and I'm not really sure what to do. I could hide him in the corner behind this forest, and maybe he'll survive next turn. Perdita can get him if she really wants to, by pushing everywhere, but it will take a lot of resources to do it. However, Lazarus might as well be dead if he does that, because he's then out of the game pretty much. So I decide to play it risky and move him up right into the enemy's face. The idea being, I'm going to lose him, but that's going to take up a turn of Perdita's abilities. But if I get lucky and get the initiative, I can rapid fire into this Witchling and get lots of blasts on these guys, because the Witchling's not in cover, and that could really swing the game for me. Turn 2, I Soulstone and get the 13 and red Joker into my hand. Gonna be needing those. And I lose the initiative and the guild goes first. Francisco moves up around here, companions Perdita, who pushes over here, charges Lazarus, absolutely wrecks him with 2 hits, and then uses her final non-charging attack to take down Mr Tannen, whose manipulative and Mimic's Blessing don't mean shit. Well, bugger. Okay, this game just went south, so it's time to break open a beer, a very aptly named beer, and start getting creative. I need to make sure that Peacekeeper can't do anything this turn, so the Brutal Effigy goes, gives Collodi Fear Not the Sword, and moves up to where you see, to make sure that I've got something in scoring range of the stash marker, and Collodi accomplices. I go fast, and what I should do is spend some AP to raise some effigies back, and then hit the Peacekeeper, who is family by the way. Did I mention Abuela made this thing family? Malifaux genetics are weird. Or what I could do is move him up around here, hit the Peacekeeper, hit the Witchling, maybe double hit the Witchling to kill it, try hitting Abuela, and basically make them all slow. But I make the noob error of putting everything into one model. So basically I hit this Peacekeeper, I try to do the my bidding thing on the Witchling again, but Hittlefon stops it. I then hit it with idle hands and miss my next 2 attacks. That could have gone better. So at the end of the turn we look like this. The Witchling removed all conditions from the Peacekeeper, the little bugger. The Marionette ran up to stand in front of the Peacekeeper so he couldn't charge Collodi. Abuela came over here, focused at the effigy and missed. Hodgepodge ran over here to hold down Perdita and stop her from pushing around into different places. My old Geist managed to hit Perdita to slow her, and then walked over here to score for the stash marker and hold down Francisco just outside of his melee range so he can't flurry or charge anything. Great. The Ostringer shot the effigy and took it down to its last wound. The Peacekeeper used Abuela's push thing to get out of combat and tried to harpoon gun the Brutal but couldn't kill it. Defense 6 for the win. And my Marionettes run up here to get into position for scoring next turn for dropping scheme markers. And there's a bit of bad positioning here that we worked out at the end of the game. Is basically I couldn't measure because I didn't want to give away what I was doing, even though it's pretty damn obvious. But basically I could be dropping scheme markers more like over here, which is 6 inches from the centre line, and would be still harder for my opponent to remove. Oh well. Turn 3 the hand gets better, and this time I get the initiative. The Brutal Effigy goes, takes a shot at Abuela, misses, focuses, and gives Collodi Fear Not the Sword. Collodi accomplices, uses Breathe Life to heal the effigy 2 points, which is the 0 action, moves around here, summons Lucky Effigy, moves around here, and summons the Shadow Effigy. I think I take another shot at the Peacekeeper and miss. I think the Witchling removed a slow from the Peacekeeper and then moved over here to block me from getting behind his lines. I go with the shadow effigy, I strum the threads going fast, so I move him into range to give the marionette finish the mission or something. Remember the mission, that's it. And I don't think I could quite get 6 inches out from the centre line going this way through the severe terrain, so I had to go through Peacekeeper's engagement range and drop a marker down. Not really expected to score from it, but at least it's become something my opponent has to consider. Abuela focuses and shoots Collodi, who runs away home. I think I soulstone pretty much all the damage. And this leaves me with a conundrum. Do I run away home this way and stay within the personal puppet range of the marionette, which puts me in a really dangerous position for next turn, but it will allow Collodi to tank 2 hits as I can retract onto the shadow effigy? Or do I keep him back, hide him behind the house, out of range, and line of sight of Perdita, who's the only real threat to him? I mean, I know she can get to him. At this point, I just can't work out how. And I figure I can make her job as hard as possible by being behind the house. So that's what I do. I decide to push him back here. The marionette remembers to use its personal puppetness and tries to escape from the Peacekeeper and fails. Lucky Effigy just jogs over here to stand next to Perdita, trying to stop her from pushing out in towards Collodi. And here was another bit of dumbassery. I completely didn't see that she could go after my tree. The Wildgeist flails at Francisco and does nothing. Francisco moves over here and wades in, that's it, pushing Perdita out of combat. He fails to hurt Hodgepodge, which was nice. And then Perdita, who was here, companions, charges the Wildgeist and nails it. And then wanders off over here with her final action to get into position for next turn. Had I had the Wildgeist back in here a little bit, he would still have been in range to score for the marker, and I might have been able to get be in engagement range of Perdita. Possibly could have stopped her from charging or shooting, although I imagine he would have just pushed out this way and still completed the charge. But yeah, that sucked. So at the end of the turn, things look like this. Hodgepodge just ran round. He's still in Francisco's engagement range, and it was just enough for him to get in range of the marker, so yeah, that was good. Love these effigies. My marionette over here placed a scheme marker, which I removed at the end of the turn to score for Leave Your Mark. Turn 4, sigh, Collodi needs 9s for summoning, but it's okay because Hiddlefon gets the initiative. Francisco flurries Hodgepodge to death, and then Perdita companions and pushes her 8 inches over here towards the family member Robot. She black jokers the damage on her first shot against Collodi, and he pushes desperately trying to get into range of his marionette. He didn't take any damage, so the marionette can't run any closer to him, which is what I was counting on. And with his next shot, he does 6 damage to Collodi, which is enough to kill him. I've got no soulstones left to prevent it, and Perdita has stone for a ram. I've probably got a ram in the flip somewhere, and got a moderate on a negative flip, and so Collodi's down. Surprisingly, she misses the shadow effigy with her last action, and the marionette does manage to use its personal puppetness to escape the Peacekeeper. But my opponent has now got 3 victory points that I would dearly have loved to deny him. As you might imagine, the rest of the turn isn't quite as exciting as that. My marionette over here drops a scheme marker and ran towards the Austringer. The Witchling ran up to engage my marionette so that it would escape the Peacekeeper. Lucky Effigy ran over here and is now within range to score for the stash marker. Goodness, I love these effigies. Abuela failed to take down the brutal effigy, although the Peacekeeper managed to flurry away at the shadow effigy. The enslaved Nephilim has obeyed the guild Austringer to kill my marionette that was over here and then pushed it up to the house. So the plan was then to move it, its double walk, which would be enough to deny me that scheme. But creepy marionette wasn't done quite there. He managed to escape the Witchling Stalker and put down another scheme marker over here, and the Austringer decided to take him down for that. But he did his job, and so at the end of the turn I picked up that scheme marker that was over here. Last turn, well, I didn't need high cards anyway. I win the initiative, whoopee! And Lucky goes double defensive. Perdita effortlessly takes down the brutal effigy, and I spend all my cards and the resources to try to keep him alive, for whatever that was worth. And then Francisco kills Lucky with a flurry. And there we go, that is the end of that game. Yep, I played that absolutely terribly. And in Malifaux, when you play terribly, you lose hard. The final scores: Hiddlefon scored 4 points for the strategy, 3 points for show of force, and 3 points for neutralise the leader. The puppets managed to net me 3 points for guard the stash, 2 points for leave your mark, because obviously my opponent didn't let me have any markers the last turn. The Austrian moved over here to deny this, and I think the Witchling picked up the other one. And so that makes the game 10 points to the guild, 5 points to the Neverborn. So yeah, I didn't choose optimal schemes. Show of Force in particular was dreadful to take against Perdita. I think Collodi struggles with it in general because there aren't really very many models, enforcers and henchmen that work in his crews. I mean, you can take one and that's great, but a second or third is really quite hard to fit in. And because Perdita just erases whoever she feels like, I just don't see a way of keeping them alive and within the centre of the board. I mean, if any of you manage to do this scheme against her, let me know. But short of maybe taking someone like Toshiro, who's got a decent defence, and like a double negative to wound, I'm not sure what can survive her. Leave your mark wasn't quite as bad as I thought. I didn't need to be dropping my markers as close to the Austringer as I did. I could have been putting them over here, and that would probably have got me the 3rd point. But yeah, I find Perdita really tough. She's got in my head now, and I can't seem to help but do dumb things around her. But thinking about things, I'm not playing Collodi as he's designed to be played. And I think I do that because I face Sonia quite frequently, and that's kind of trained me to use him in a particular way. So my thinking after this game is that the way to handle Perdita with Collodi is to play him as he's designed to be played. Surround him with a big blob of marionettes and he can soak damage like almost no one else in the game. Perdita in particular excels when she can just delete expensive, important models. And something Collodi can do well is to have no expensive, important models, just a ton of tough, disposable puppets that just keep coming back. So I think I'm going to start designing crews to handle something like Perdita that can do ridiculous amounts of damage, rather than something that's flexible enough to survive more than 2 turns against a blaster. And I'll just have to learn to adapt those kind of crews to be able to hold their own when every other game I face Sonia. Well, that was the game, and those were my thoughts. And in case it didn't come across, I had a really great time playing this. We had pizza, we had beer. Mr Hilfon is great fun to hang out with, and I really enjoyed seeing what I could salvage from the game after I'd made such a mess of it. And I'll leave you with that. Take care.